UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Blinds close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World with me, Alex Armstrong. Tonight I'll be joined by political commentator and head of media at the IEA, Reem Ibrahim, and GB News' senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson. On Real World, Real People, Orla Minahane, a pink lady, is going to be joining me to tell me about all the protests up and down the country. And on Last Orders, comedian Lewis Schaefer goes over best moments in his career. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. But first up, here's your news.
Thank you very much indeed. Let's get you up to date with the headlines at 7 o'clock this evening. We do start with the news that broke in the last couple of hours. An Afghan migrant has been found guilty of threatening to kill Nigel Farage in a TikTok post last year. Fayaz Khan said he was coming to England to pop Mr Farage after the Reform leader posted a video of the 26-year-old arriving on a small boat. Jurors were told Khan had a very large presence online, amassing hundreds of thousands of views, and was a dangerous man with an interest in firearms. Mr Farage says he hopes Khan, who's known as Marapasa on TikTok, will be deported back to Sweden.
Whilst there may be some genuine people that cross the channel, almost every day there are people like Marapasa that cross the English Channel and will do this country and its people, particularly its girls and women, very, very great harm.
Who burnt the Quran outside the Turkish consulate in London has won an appeal against his conviction. Hamid Koskun was found guilty of a religiously aggravated public order offence after burning a Quran outside the Turkish consulate in London. However, he was backed by free speech campaigners and successfully appealed against the conviction at Southwark Crown Court. His appeal was attended by the Conservative Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick, who told GB News earlier it's a potentially landmark case. The Israeli military says its troops have now withdrawn to the agreed deployment line as part of the Gaza ceasefire agreement. Thousands of Palestinians have started to return to the north of the Strip after a pause in fighting came into effect earlier, although Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said Israeli forces will remain in Gaza until certain conditions, including Hamas disarmament, are met. The first pause in fighting since March is now in effect. Hamas has until 10 a.m. on Monday to release all the hostages, after which Israel will free hundreds of Palestinian detainees. And this breaking news coming into us. Multiple people have been killed, with others still missing after a blast at a military explosives factory in the US state of Tennessee. The explosion occurred at the Accurate Energetic Systems plant, an hour south of Nashville, and was heard miles away in neighbouring counties. At least 19 people remain unaccounted for. And legends of boxing, football and music were among thousands of mourners who gathered to say farewell to former world champion Ricky Hatton. Crowds lined the streets as the hearse travelled through the city in a procession before a private funeral at Manchester Cathedral. Wayne Rooney, former boxers Tyson Fury and Amir Khan, along with the Oasis frontman Liam Gallagher and several of the Happy Mondays, were in attendance to pay their respects. Hatton, who was known as the People's Champion and won world titles in the welterweight and light welterweight divisions, died last month at the age of 46. Those are your headlines. I'll be back with more at 8.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World with me, Alex Armstrong. I know I look like I'm on work experience at the moment. I had a beard clipper incident. Look, it'll grow back all right, everybody. I'm joined tonight by Head of Media at the IEA, Reem Ibrahim. I'm also joined by GB News senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson. Look, first up, we're going to talk about Kemi Badenoch. Now, she's made a major speech at Tory party conference, and there was much speculation about whether or not this was going to be a do-or-die speech for her as party leader. She's pledged many things. The big pledge was abolishing inheritance tax. How do you think that's gone down with the public? Would you like to see inheritance tax abolished? We're going to be digging into all of it here. Reem, welcome to the show.
Hello, good evening, Alex.
You were there at Tory party conference, weren't you?
I was.
What was the atmosphere like?
You know what, on the Sunday I thought this is a bit like a funeral, isn't it? You know, it's sort of empty, there weren't that many people. The Midland Bar, which is the bar in the hotel in the conference centre inside the sort of secure zone, is normally rammed. And I thought, God, is it really that bad? Then on the Monday morning, I did my first panel out of 6 at Tory conference, and I realised that the conference was starting to fill up, and there were so many young people. So look, I'm not necessarily too optimistic, but I do think that those people, especially people like Emily Maitlis on Twitter, going on and saying, God, the Tory conference is completely dead, it just isn't really true. Yes, it had less people than last year, but I was really, really quite impressed with the quality of the fringe events, the quality of some of those main stage speeches, especially Kemi Badenoch's speech, which I know we'll get into.
Yeah, absolutely. Nigel, you saw the pictures of the empty chairs across the conference. I mean, obviously, they've just taken a massive thumping in the general election just a year ago. Is it a good thing that Kemi Badenoch got this rousing applause? It was full for her, maybe not so full for the Shadow Chancellor, perhaps. What do you make of it all?
Well, as far as the empty seats go, you tend to find that at every party conference after somebody's lost an election badly, that after 1997, the Tories had a pretty low-level party conference then. So they'll build up. As we get nearer the election, that'll happen. As far as the cheering went, I think that Kemi's speech was actually quite good. The issue there is that she's been able to bring her opponents within the party back on side. Her big problem comes next May when local elections happen, and then we've got elections in Scotland and Wales. If she does really badly against reform, I think she's in trouble and there will be a move to unseat her. As far as the actual conference goes, lots of promises. She'd always said that she wouldn't come up with any policies till 2027, but suddenly we had loads of them in one go. I question the figures, that they seem to be, when you delve down, just a bit vague. The immigration figures, 750,000 migrants to go over the period of a parliament. That's an awful lot, and she has no idea where she's going to send them. Some of the tax breaks that she's talking about, while they sound good, how you fund them is a whole different matter.
So I disagree with that analysis of the figures on the policy side. I mean, it's really interesting, actually. Nigel's right. We saw almost nothing in terms of policy from Kemi Badenoch since the election. She had all these policy groups and she said, don't worry, we'll just wait. We are going to come out with some policies. And then all of a sudden, we had so many just in the space of a week. We were sort of spoilt for choice in that respect. She wants to repeal the Climate Change Act to abolish net zero. Fantastic. That will ensure that we can actually increase energy supply and bills will come down. She wants to leave the ECHR, which means that we will actually be able to physically do those deportations if we want to. And really crucially in the speech this week, we saw that she said she wants to abolish stamp duty. Now, stamp duty is a tax on the transaction, right? You every time you sell a house and you want to move to another house and you buy that house, you are being taxed. So that means that that thing happens less. That transaction, that house changing hands happens less. Now, the reason why this is so important is if you are a little bit older, maybe you're an elderly couple, maybe you've just turned pension age and your children have left the house, empty nest, and you want to downsize to free up some of that equity, you can't, because if you do sell your house and buy another one, then unfortunately you're going to be taxed to the oblivion through stamp duty. And so what you do is you just sit in that house with all of those empty bedrooms instead of freeing up some of that money. So abolishing stamp duty will be the best thing for not only those people that are homeowners, but it also means that when they do downsize, they free up some of that money, pensioners will be better off. But it also means that there's a new family home ready for a new family to move in.
Well, these things are all very good and well, Reem. And Nigel, I'm guessing you might be thinking the same thing as me, but net zero, this is reform level stuff, isn't it? This is copy and paste from Nigel Farage talking about leaving the ECHR. Well, she divvied on that. She's divvied on that for 300 and something days since she became party leader. In the meantime, Nigel Farage has come out quite strong in Reform UK against it. Even Robert Jenrick in the leadership campaign said he wanted to leave the ECHR, and Kemi called it a gimmick. Is she now just playing up to Reform UK?
Yeah, I mean, most of the Tory conference was a Reform Tribute Act. And so certainly the ECHR line was something that, as you say, Reform have come up with ages ago. What's weird about that is the Tories are talking about leaving ECHR, but not the Refugee Convention. And the Refugee Convention is basically the one that puts migrants on our shores. So that was a peculiar way of doing the policy. I thought if you're going to do it, do both. Whether it'll make any difference to boats crossing is another matter. But that was weird. On the getting rid of the Climate Change Act, the danger of that is it completely wrong-foots business. Business is preparing for net zero. If it works out, we would then lead the world in technology rather than have to buy the stuff in. And you're also looking at about 650,000 jobs it could create. So industry's preparing. Now they're being told, should the Tories win the next election, they can forget all about that and go back to the old systems of fossil fuels. That is not a good way of running a country and running a business.
That isn't what that means. And look, Nigel is right in this respect, where the government have effectively told every business across the economy that net zero is what we're trying to achieve. But quite frankly, that shouldn't have happened in the first place. And when we're thinking about this in the long term,
but it has happened.
Right. But this isn't about going back to fossil fuels being the 100% energy source in the UK. What it is about allowing the energy market to decide for us. Now, I'm of the view that we have to use the resources that we currently have, and actually every other country is laughing at us where they are all fracking, they are all using oil and gas, and we have that resource in the North Sea, but we basically make it impossible to use. Ed Miliband at Labour Party conference in his speech said, I want to send the frackers packing. I mean, that kind of policy would literally reduce the supply of energy and make energy bills more expensive for everybody across the country. So, repealing net zero is not about completely removing all of the renewables across the economy that we currently use. What it is ensuring that they are financially sustainable. So taxpayers should not be footing the bill for green energy, but if a private company or indeed private finance wants to finance green energy investment, then that absolutely can be the case. Because if I could just explain very quickly, the difference is that those companies have to bear that risk. Whereas when the government or taxpayers are subsidising green energy companies, they bear no risk, right? Taxpayers are footing the bill. So they can just invest in basically sham green technologies. There are technologies out there. I'm a climate optimist. I think that we will achieve that kind of security through green energy and through cleaner energy. I think nuclear is one example of that. However, taxpayers shouldn't be forced to foot the bill, and we should not make ourselves poorer.
Well, look, I agree on all the net zero stuff. It's been a total mess for this country, hasn't it? It's left people with sky high energy bills. But let's get back to the Tories for a second, because on the front page, the day after Tory party conference started, Reem, Dominic Grieve was on the front page of the Independent saying, leaving the ECHR, this is going to be the death of the Tory party. And he might be right, because there's a lot of liberal-minded Tories, the people. I'm thinking about people on the outskirts of London, the richer and wealthy ones who might be thinking, actually, this is not the Conservative Party anymore. How does Kemi keep those people in the party?
It's really interesting, I think, and Nigel alluded to this earlier, but I disagree with his assessment on this. I don't think the Conservative Party and at conference that they were sort of harping towards reform or celebrating reform in that way. That was completely untrue. I mean, effectively, Kemi didn't even mention, Nigel or reform. I think she mentioned reform once in her speech. And that's really crucial because they're carving themselves out. And, on energy policy, for example, reform's energy policies have been pretty bonkers, right? Taxing green energy companies, banning battery energy storage systems, and then they U-turned on it and said, actually, that's not policy.
But Rick, I want to pass this over to Nigel because look, Kemi, the Tories are the ones that kicked off net zero and all these policies. Now they're backtracking on them, and I don't think they've done enough apology. We saw Priti Patel, she won't apologise for immigration figures. We saw Boris Johnson won't apologise for immigration figures. Does it matter if Kemi Badenoch makes these grand promises like abolishing stamp duty? Because actually, do the public trust them? Will they regain that trust in the next 4 years?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, it's the trust issue. The one thing the Reform has got going for it is that they're the new kids on the block. They don't carry any baggage. The Tories carry 14 years of baggage. So if you take, for example, their cost savings they're talking about, the idea is you could save over £30 billion on the welfare bill and on civil servants, getting rid of civil servants. Now, when Mel Stride, now the Shadow Chancellor, was the Work and Pension Secretary, the welfare bill under him went up by 30 billion. Getting rid of civil servants is a nice idea, but since Brexit, we've actually needed more of them rather than fewer. So those are the kind of things that they've actually got to do in government. I think they're making promises now because government is at least 4 years away for them, and they can get away with it. And that's what I mean about the mimicking reform. Reform are doing the same thing. You can make promises now in opposition, you'll never have to carry out.
And this is where Labour got into trouble, because they made a ton of promises, and we now look back on the year after they got into office, or the year leading up to them getting into office. They said, you said you'd do this, you said you'd do that, and this is the problem. You can make all these grand promises, but the public don't buy it, do they? Because I mean, it's particularly with the Tories, because they let them down so many times on their manifesto. Why should the people trust the Tories now?
I actually think what's interesting, I mean, the public can make up their own mind about whether or not they believe that the Conservative Party is renewed in that way. But what is interesting, I think, with the party itself is they have said these are policies that we've waited to discuss and really figure out if they are actually possible. I would say in terms of the public spending cuts, they're pretty mediocre. I mean, £47 billion would be basically enough to ensure that we don't raise taxes again, but they're not enough in the long term to ensure we reduce the size of the state.
Like the NHS, for example, just suck all that money up, wouldn't it? In
bureaucratic black hole.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely right. Do you think Kemi Badenoch can bring it back for the Tories? I don't know. I think the jury's out on that one. Coming up next, it's Real World, Real People. I'm going to be joined by Pink Lady Orla Minihane. She's also a Reform candidate. We will see you very shortly.
want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power. Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Lee Anderson's Real World with me, Alex Armstrong. I want to find out what real people think, and I'm joined now by Orla Minihaynes. You're a pink lady,
I am.
You're also a Reform candidate. I want to start off because a lot of people might not know what the pink ladies are, Orla. What are the pink ladies?
So, the pink ladies are a group of very boring, ordinary mums and grandmothers from, well, originally it started in Canary Wharf and Epping. And as you may remember, at the beginning of the summer, there were protests that started up in both locations because of the illegal migrants that were being housed into hotels. So we started these protests, and then we realised that in order to get public opinion, get public on our side, we needed to show that the concern was around the children and around the fact that children were being exposed to men who are undocumented. So what we decided to do was put women and mothers and grandmothers at the forefront of these protests to show that we're not all thugs, we're not all masked up, we're not all, skinhead boys. So that's what we did. And then we all started wearing pink because pink is a feminine colour and represents girls and, it's all very genteel. Although most of the women aren't genteel, but, we decided to name ourselves the Pink Ladies. So in essence, we're just mothers and grandmothers and sisters and aunties who are showing that we are really concerned about what's going on. And it started really in Epping and Canary Wharf, but now it's spread and it's spreading everywhere.
Yeah,
because everyone feels the same.
Yeah, how has it spread? Is it spread by social media? Has it spread by word of mouth? Has it spread by political connections? What's been the driving force behind this becoming a nationwide phenomenon? Because I was at your protest the other night and I spoke to people from up and down the country.
Yeah, so it's very much social media. It's very much word of mouth. And I think that from women traditionally haven't been anarchists, they haven't been the ones that have gone out and protested. They've always been, the ones that sort of have sat back, slightly more subservient than men. But when you start threatening or posing a risk to our children, women are going to stand up and say, whoa, wait a minute, this is not okay. So because of that, so many women across the UK have been feeling the same thing. I mean, there's horrendous stories about things that are happening in Bournemouth, in Brighton, in Yorkshire, Liverpool. So women are reaching out and they're seeing these pink ladies and saying, so I'm getting emails and texts saying, we really need your help. I want to stand up a pink ladies demonstration in Wakefield or in Blackpool. Can you help me? So we're all joining together through social networking, and we're seeing that there is so much support for this movement, and it will grow and it will keep growing.
Some people are branding you lot far right on the internet, among other names.
Yes.
What do you make of those accusations, Orla?
Well, I think that far right is thrown around like it's the most ridiculous term. Most people don't know what far right actually means. It's a bit like Nazi and fascist and all these other really insulting words. Once you challenge people and say, well, what do you mean by that? Well, you're a racist. Well, that's actually not what that means. But why are we racist? Because as I keep saying, they're thousands and thousands of men. Now, they could be green men, they could be purple men. They're still men who are undocumented, and many of them have been expelled from Europe or didn't get their asylum claim approved, so they're coming over to England.
Yeah.
You know, so why would we want to invite criminals over and then put them in hotels next to our children's schools?
Yeah.
It's utterly bizarre.
Yeah, and I think that brings me to the next point, because why is it important that women are running this campaign? What's the difference between this just being like a nationwide campaign against hotels for illegal migrants and that sort of stuff?
Because I think that if you look at what happened in Southport last year, and everybody was angry, of course they were, and fathers, of course, are going to be as angry, and grandfathers as mothers are, because it's still their children that are put at risk. But last year, when Southport happened, and Keir Starmer stood up and said, far-right thugs will be punished, blah, blah, blah. You know, that sort of the visual of men is so much more aggressive than the visual of women. Now, I'm not saying that women by any means are less determined or, you know, less angry, but women will present themselves in a slightly less intimidating way because we're women.
And have you had? You've been at so many protests now, Walla. What's the reaction been by the general public? Not by people around you that agree with you, but by the general public.
So you get a lot of different. You get different reactions. So we can be in Epping, we can be outside the hotel, and you'll have people that go past beeping and cheering and beeping and cheering. And I'll say to them, why don't you come and join us? But many of them are scared. They're scared of being branded far right. They're scared that their employers will find out. They're scared that their neighbours might turn on them. So people are supportive, but they might not necessarily come and stand next to you. And then you have the others who are anti, who are very open, you know, who are very open borders, who have this idea that we are all dreadful, horrendous people because we want to keep our children safe. And, you know, let's be clear, most of us are not anti-migrant. My parents are migrants. Many people have come from somewhere other than the UK. It's the illegal scenario and it's the undocumented and unchecked problem that we have. Yeah. That's what the issue is.
There's been many campaigns happening at the moment. There's not just the Pink Ladies, but there's Operation Raise the Colours as well. One of the protests that you were at the other day, I was there too, they were Tower Hamlets Council. They were branding people raising the colours as far-right extremists.
Yes.
What do you make of that?
OK, so if you are a far-right extremist, you are technically a racist and you want, you know, domination of a certain thing. So, but how can you be racist by raising your flag in your own country? It is, I just find this so bizarre, and I've never been able to get anyone to sort of explain this to me. If you're raising a swastika or you're raising a, I don't know, you know, an offensive flag, then that's one thing. But how can you be offended by your own flag in your own country?
You see people like Gary Neville. Gary Neville came out the other day, he said on one of his building sites he ripped down the Union flag. He said because they're saying it's being used for divisive reasons. They're saying it's being used to intimidate people.
I absolutely reject that. First of all, Gary Neville, I actually can't on camera say what I feel about him at this point. This is a man that represented his country. I mean, he wasn't the best footballer, let's put that in there, but, you know, he represented his country and he wore that flag. And how dare he say that? That really infuriates me. He's also a champagne socialist, and it's obviously in the name Gary, because him and Lineker are much the same. And it's all very well and good for them, sitting in their multi-million-pound houses, sending their children to private schools. They don't mix in the same scenario as most of the British people do. So it's a very different scenario for them. So it's all very well and good that they can tarnish us. Ultimately, what people are doing with Raise the Flag, Raise the Colours, is saying, we want to be heard. We are British people, we are British taxpayers, we keep this country going. We want you to listen to us, and a flag is representation. That's what it is. If you go to the North Pole or you stick your flag in as a term of I've come, I've conquered, etc. And what people are saying is, don't forget us. we are British,
Yeah.
this is our flag, and the reason it's taken off so much is because people feel ignored.
Yeah, I think the flag should be a unifying moment.
Absolutely.
Really, really briefly, what would you like to see happen at the end of your campaign?
Well, I think we're shooting in the wind a little bit there, but I think what we're going to do is, as I said to you about these, these groups of women that are coming to me, we are going to set up Pink Ladies groups up and down the country, and then we're going to create a network.
Yeah.
And that network will then come together, share information, because a lot of things that are happening aren't being, reported in mainstream media.
Yes,
we
true.
know that, right? And that's fact. And we think it is really important that people are aware of exactly what's going on. So we're going to create a network. We're going to have leaders in all these, Pink Lady leaders in all these different regions. We're going to come together. We're going to create this national network of women, and then we're going to do protests.
I think that's
Big
great.
Protests.
I think that's brilliant. I wish you all the luck. Cheers.
Cheers.
Keep me posted. We'll have you back soon.
Is this you?
Yeah, it's on me. How about that? It's on me.
Thank you.
I'm going to read out a right of reply from Tower Hamlets Council. A spokesperson said, at its full council meeting on Wednesday the 8th of October, Tower Hamlets Council passed a motion reaffirming its commitment to community safety, cohesion and standing against hate and division. The motion recognised the borough's proud history of diversity and resistance to fascism from the Battle of Cable Street to the present day. The council resolved to strengthen community engagement, particularly on the Isle of Dogs, support staff safety and uphold public order in the face of intimidation, expand the award-winning No Place for Hate programme, work with partners to counter far-right activity and misinformation, and invest in housing, advice services and community infrastructure to tackle the root causes of division. The motion also condemns attempts by organised far-right groups to spread division and commits to protecting all residents regardless of background so they feel safe, respected and heard. Of course, the council are keen to get the points across that there's been some false social media commentary that claims a motion referred to the group known as the Pink Ladies in that motion there as far right. That did not happen. This is a misinterpretation. Next, it's right versus left.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head towards the weekend, it should be mostly settled, dry, chilly overnight with some fog during the early hours of the morning, but where we see the sunshine, it is still going to be feeling warm and pleasant for the time of year. The reason for the settled conditions, well, it's all thanks to high pressure swirling around as we head towards the weekend. At times, though, across northern areas, it will drag in some cloud from the west. It's likely we'll see spells of drizzle across western Scotland through the course of Saturday morning. Elsewhere, a mix of cloud and also some clear skies. The clearest skies particularly across eastern areas of England, so a chance of some mist and fog here, and most towns and cities will remain in the mid to high single figures, but across any rural areas under those clear skies, a good chance we could dip below freezing and possibly see some frost. So a chance of this across eastern areas of Scotland, but in the northwest, much cloudier picture, quite a damp start to Saturday morning. This rain likely to linger through much of the day. Across Northern Ireland, elsewhere across England and Wales, a dry and bright start to Saturday. As I say there could be some mist and fog during the morning. Quite a chilly start to Saturday too. But any low cloud will lift and break nicely through the course of the day. And by the afternoon, we should see some sunny spells, feeling warm in that sunshine too. Though across northern and western Scotland, much cloudier picture here, some quite persistent spells of rain eventually pushing their way northward. So not feeling quite as warm here, but wherever we do see the sunshine, plenty of autumnal warmth, highs still reaching around 17 to 18 degrees Celsius. For Sunday, once again, some fog during the first part of the morning, perhaps more fog if you compare it to mornings this week. Once again, lifting and breaking through the course of the morning, allowing that sunshine to redevelop by the afternoon. There's still a fair amount of cloud across the Northern Isles, for example, which could produce some drizzle. Otherwise, for the rest of the week, remaining dry, settled, mix of cloud and some sunshine, and temperatures around about average for the time of year.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Lee Anderson's Real World with me, Alex Armstrong, but 10 years younger. Somehow I've gone through a time machine, haven't I? Right, we're going to go back to Head of Media, the IEA, Reem Ibrahim, and GB News senior political commentator Nigel Nelson. Look, I want to talk about Robert Jenrick. He's the other star of the Tory party conferences, and he's sort of pitched as a future leader of the Conservative Party, but he got into a little bit of bother with the media and the wider public when he made some comments when he was up at a little trip in Birmingham. He said there when he was visiting that he didn't see a single white face, and this is why it's an example of a failed integration into Britain, Nigel. What did you make of his comments?
Well, I mean, for the rest of the conference, he kept his nose clean, so it was unfortunate he got this leaked footage coming out at the same time. I think he was wrong. He would argue he was just making an observation. He didn't see any white faces while he was filming in that part of Birmingham. But I don't think you can link the colour of people's skin with integration. So really that everybody gravitates to people who are most like them, that we do it in our own social circles. I lived in New York for 5 years and unconsciously found myself spending time with expat Brits and Australians rather than Americans. So that's what happens. It's not about integration, and linking the two was a mistake.
Reem?
I think it's interesting. So Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor, said that it's not words that he would have used. And I think I broadly agree with that, but I also think that what Robert Jenrick said was an observation. And I do think there is an aspect to this. You know, I'm an ethnic minority, I'm originally North African, and, you know, I am somebody that is concerned about the lack of integration in the United Kingdom, as is basically the entirety of the United Kingdom. We're all very concerned about the lack of integration because what you do have is, in some parts of the UK, ghettoisation. You've got large groups of people from the same village, even in various parts of the world, that have all congregated together and effectively replicated that community in the UK. And look, I mean, if it's voluntary and if it's sort of done naturally, then it probably wouldn't have a problem with it. But the reason why this is happening is because we have effectively centrally planned the labour market. So when the government give huge amounts of benefits to large groups of people, when they are given social housing, usually is the real cause of this, they all congregate together, and it does mean that in many, many parts of the UK, you don't see ethnically English people. And I do think that that is a problem, or at least it's symptomatic of a problem. There's nothing innately about it. And look, I think that Nigel's right in saying that when you talk about the colour of somebody's skin, that's quite crass. And I think that it's very, very easy to be accused of racism. So again, it's not words that I would have used. But what he was really talking about was sort of at a surface level, you can see visibly that clearly integration is a problem in this particular area. And it isn't about the colour of somebody's skin, that doesn't matter. But what does matter, I think, is these are the symptoms of a failed immigration policy.
Do you know what it reminds me of, Nigel? Humza Yousaf in the Scottish Parliament going, white, white, white. Anna Sawar, the Labour leader there, also saying the same thing, white, white, white. They weren't branded racist. They were praised for diversity. They were praised, yes, you're so right. And when someone like Robert Jenrick says it, who happens to be a white bloke, and he makes an observation of a similar kind, well, he's slandered for it. Is there not a double standard there?
Well, the first thing is I wouldn't brand Robert Jenrick a racist. I do take the point that he made the observation. What I object to is the link he was making between seeing no white faces and the lack of integration. And the next stage you have to come on to is, how do you integrate people, and should you? I mean, do you forcibly move people into...
Well, no, yeah, but I'll answer that. So in Singapore, they did that, right? They forcibly took people, and I think that's too draconian. I'm not supportive of that kind of policy at all. But the question is, why haven't we had this level of integration? And it's basically what I said earlier, right? When you've got the government giving benefits to groups of people, especially really newly arrived migrants, a lot of the time these are dependents of people that have come here legally. And so what that means is, look, if you're a housewife of a, I don't know, Somalian doctor in the NHS and you are not working, it means that you're really going to struggle to integrate because you're probably going to struggle to speak English. So
but is it not
the key
also
to integration...
Is the problem not also just mass migration? Like the millions of people that came in under the Boris wave, that's just too many people to integrate in a short period of time.
The numbers do matter in absolute terms. But I will just say, the solution to integration, how you integrate people, is work. I think it's employment. I think if people are coming
Which is why London seems to be fully integrated. I mean, I just don't see quite how you stop people, especially the new migrants you're talking about, joining family. I mean, if they're going to come over here, I mean, we're talking about legal migrants now. If they've got family here, got friends here,
you don't stop that.
That is where they're going to go.
No, you don't stop that, but you ensure that actually the reason why they're coming here is for work, and so the families are integrated.
And if it's legal migration, it will be.
Not always, no, because unfortunately, a lot of the migration that we're experiencing at the moment is unfortunately subsidised by the taxpayer, and that's the key problem here. I would say, in my view, I am very pro-immigration. I think people should come to this great country and work and contribute. I would completely abolish all benefits given to migrants. I think that there should be complete restricted eligibility.
Forever.
And I would have a very...
Do you mean forever?
Yes, I think that basically the UAE have it right. You know, Brits go to Dubai all the time, but they don't speak a word of Arabic. It's not really about that. But
it's about work for a lot of them.
It's about work.
And then the same for America. If you go to America and you run out of money, sorry, you're deported.
This comes into the indefinite leave remain argument.
Yeah.
If you take benefits away from those people and they're here for the long term and through no fault of their own, the company they work for collapses, they're out of work for a couple of months, they've been paying taxes in, they should be allowed to have benefits for those couple of months till they get a new job.
No, they shouldn't.
But then you leave people destitute.
No,
but this is a completely unfair
way. Well, they would be
right?
deported, surely, wouldn't they, at that point? They'd be deported at that point.
In America...
They pay their taxes.
Well, have they paid them? I mean, okay. Well, I guess
the
point would be is how long would they stay on benefits for? If they're on a lowly paid job, let's say they're earning 25 grand a year, the benefits will end up being more attractive to them. And I think that's the point, is that where is the line? We haven't had a national conversation about where our red lines are as a country. We've just allowed this to creep in. And I think that's what we're doing now. We're catching up to where we should have been maybe 5 or 6 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, perhaps.
British people should not be required to foot the bill for migrants, and I'm very, very strong on this. Again, I'm a libertarian. I am very pro-immigration. I think the UK, if it's a growing economy where people are going to be coming from all around the world, we should be attracting the best talent. If we're going to have data centres with loads of really technologically advanced people, it would be fantastic. But British people that have worked their entire lives should not be required to foot the bill for it.
But these people
final quick word then. Was Robert Jenrick right or wrong to say what he said?
He was wrong.
Reem?
I think he was wrong.
I think he was right. I think he was saying what a lot of you at home might have said had you been in that area. He was a secret audio clip as well. He wasn't saying it public. He wasn't trying to make a public statement about it. So I don't think we can really hold him accountable for words that were leaked by him. But, you know, I think we're allowed to have national conversations about these things. And I think it's encouraged one, which is always a good thing. Right, should we get on to some quick fire questions?
Yes!
Yeah? Right, Lee's quite tough on this, isn't he? He doesn't let you dither, from what I know. So no dithering with me either. We'll keep the same standard, all right? All the pints are going. All right, inheritance tax, should we abolish it, yes or no, Reem?
Yes.
No.
OK. Digital ID, should it be used to track your taxes, yes or no?
No.
Yes.
All right. Is Gary Neville right to pull down the Union Jack from his building?
Yes.
No.
Is Greta Thunberg a hero for her aid flotilla moments?
No.
No.
All consensus there. And should Donald Trump get a peace prize even if the Gaza peace deal falls through?
Yes.
No.
All right, well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that one, because this is an ongoing conversation. We constantly hear about all these peace deals lately, aren't we? Of course, the Russia peace deal did fall through with Trump. Now we look like we're getting close to a Gaza peace deal between Israel and the Gazan authorities, or the people that matter, at least around the table. Look, there's a lot to be done still. The hostages have got to be released, first and foremost. That's what they're saying over the weekend. Trump's promised...
Well, Monday is the deadline for the hostage.
That's right. So they're expecting a big influx over the weekend. What do you think of the plan so far?
I think Trump's been brilliant. I'm not denying him a peace prize, but not if it falls through. I mean, the whole point about a peace prize is you have to bring peace.
But isn't it better to try than to not try at all? I mean, he's got many closer than anyone has for decades.
You don't give gold medals in the Olympics for coming third.
Well, we still do give people medals. We do still give them medals.
You give them a bronze peace prize on that basis.
No, you just make a very good point there. I think that effectively, what matters here is that the Palestinian people are able to have that aid, and of course we're going to see an influx of that very soon, of infrastructure, of sort of raw materials and things like that, and hopefully help those people. But also the Israeli hostages. I mean, so many of them, the ones that have survived, are probably going to be completely starved, and they'll need urgent medical treatment. So, look, if Trump is able to ensure that those people's lives are saved, I think that is probably worth a peace prize.
Right, coming up, we've got Last Orders with comedian Lewis Schaefer. Trust me, I mean, Lewis is an incredible bloke. It's going to be a brilliant conversation. Stay tuned.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Storm Alice continues across eastern areas of Spain, bringing heavy rain and also localised flooding. But elsewhere, it should be a mostly fine and settled picture, particularly across Madeira and Tenerife, most of Portugal and also Spain. But it's across eastern areas where we'll see that storm continuing to bring heavy and persistent outbreaks of rain, strong gusty winds and also large hail. Elsewhere, though, across the Mediterranean, it is mostly dry, settled, plenty of sunshine. That will continue into next week, along with warm temperatures widely in the mid to high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless.
I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get us on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community.
So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Lee Anderson's Real World with me, Alex Armstrong. I don't look like I'm old enough to be behind a pub today, do I? But we're here for Last Orders, and I'm here with comedian Lewis Schaefer. Lewis, what a pleasure to have you here behind the bar with me.
And you are?
Yeah, Alex Armstrong. Yeah.
Alex Armstrong.
We've met a few times. We've met a few times.
That was a joke.
Yeah, I know. We're getting started. We're just warming you up.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you what you're doing in the UK, because, of course, you're American, aren't you? And you're born in Brooklyn.
I am. I was born in Brooklyn and lived in Brooklyn, and I lived in Manhattan, and I grew up in Great Neck, Long Island, New York, which is the home of Eddie Cantor.
Who's that?
Exactly. Groucho Marx.
Groucho Marx, yeah.
F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote The Great Gatsby.
Oh, yeah, of course.
In the town that I grew up in. We were the poorest Jews living in this town.
Wow. Okay.
Wow, pretty bad.
Yeah. What was it like growing up in New York?
It was a great time. I mean, I don't remember. I've been here for 25 years. You can ask me what was it like to live in Britain before Britain was totally. And yeah, it was great. America's the greatest country in the world. But we even then we knew there were better places. That's what makes America the greatest country in the world.
You're figuring out when to leave.
Yeah, not when to leave. No, you just think to yourself, there's something going on some other place. Let's maybe steal it and bring it to America.
And what was it? What made you come to the UK?
I fell in love with a girl.
Oh dear.
A woman, whatever. She destroyed my life, and then she did. But that had 2 kids, which is great to have. But now they're destroying my life.
Financially, emotionally, both.
Just the idea that you love destroys people's lives.
Yeah.
I love England. It's destroying my life living here. Basically, if I didn't love it, I could maybe go somewhere else. Possibly go back home.
All right. So, Lewis, what made you become a comedian?
The porn market dropped. And you had to find something. That's not true. That is not true. It's been going strong for Lewis Schaefer. And no, I became a comedian. They said people thought I was fine. I wanted to be fine. I wanted to be paid attention to. Why do you become like on doing this? Because
I don't know, actually. I have no idea.
Because you want someone to look at you.
Yeah.
You're not happy being just a handsome guy walking down the street. You want somebody to look at you. And that's why I did comedy, I think. And also because I'm an angry man. I think every comedian is like a super angry guy. I'm like furious.
So we're going to go back to some of your favourite moments being a comedian. Does anything stand out to you?
Yeah. I was speaking to Gary Shandling once on the street and have him go, I see what your shtick is. And it was just so brilliant, and then other people who recognize him. I don't know, what is my favorite? I don't think I've had a favorite moment in comedy. I mean, I would prefer to be a political pundit and have people hate me rather than...
Well, you can do both if you want.
No, you can't.
You can do both.
You can't do both. People have to... Comedy is about being liked. They have to like you. And then they have to laugh at you, and they got to think, oh, he's on my team. Doesn't hate me. But I hate. I'm filled with hate. That's all I want to do is hate everybody.
What about because obviously you've seen America and Britain. What about the sense of humour? What's the difference?
I think the difference is the sense of humor is the British sense of humor is they'd like you not to understand. They want the joke to be amongst like me and you making a joke at the expense of these people, or I'm making a joke with him at your expense, and you just don't even know that I've made a joke. And he goes, "Oh, I heard the joke, Lewis." That's
inside joke.
Inside joke. Americans, they want that's why American comedy is famous around the world, but there's no British famous comedians.
Ricky Gervais?
Barely. He's not really a comedian. I mean, brilliant. He is brilliant. Yeah. But he's not completely loved like American comedians around the world.
Yeah. Well, he says it as it is. That's what I like about Ricky Gervais. He's very British in that sense. We don't pull our punches, do we?
That's
we just
not
say,
true.
yeah.
Well,
Maybe. But he's a unique comedian in that respect. And I remember that Golden Globes moment when he was at. He was just ripping into all the celebrities. I think most people thought that was brilliant. He was just saying everyone else wanted to say to them. But then there's many people that would have hated that. Some of the looks on some of their faces were like stone cold.
I mean, I thought he was horrible. I thought all British comedians were horrible when I first moved here. And then I realized Why they're horrible? Because the audiences here are the most horrible audiences ever, because they all think that they're comedians in their own minds, and they want to say something funny. You go to a comedy club in New York, nobody says, I'm going to grab the microphone and tell a joke. I'm going to, like, heckle by telling a joke. So it's a very hard audience. I think the guy's brilliant, and even his shows, I've acted in movies. I know exactly what Extras is all about. It was like totally, I saw it when I first saw it the first time. I hadn't acted in the movies, and I just thought, this is not realistic, but it is realistic. So God bless.
Well, there you go. Right, well, let's pour a pint, shall we, Lewis? I want to mark it out of 10. I know Lee's got quite a high standard there.
Yeah.
What about the alpaca lips there? Why don't you pour that?
Give it a go. I have a friend of mine who owns a pub.
Yeah.
In Cradley Heath.
It's not looking good, Lewis.
No, it isn't.
It's not looking good at all. It's not. I'm a mark
It's
that.
like milk.
Yeah, I'm going to mark that as 0.
Can I try again?
I think you might have had a bit too froth there.
I'll drink that later. You got to start slowly.
She's having another go. Well, Lewis, while you're pouring the pint, what are you doing now? What are you up to next?
I'm doing a live stream. I'm going to have an amazing live stream now. I should have started this years ago.
Yeah.
It's on 2 times a day for 3 hours. Oh my God, this stuff. This is not my fault. It's not my fault.
All right. Well, look, Lewis. I'm still going to have to.
Am I allowed to drink it?
Well, you're allowed to if you want. But I don't know if you're going to enjoy that. Yeah, that's a 0 out of 10, I think, for Lewis on that. But listen,
I think there's been a setup. It was a setup. It said setup for comedians. Yeah.
Watch Lewis. He's going to be doing his live streams. Lewis, I hope to see you on GBNews.
Louis Schaefer Uncooked.
Thank you for watching Lee Anderson's Real World with me, Alex Armstrong. If you love this, tune in 9 o'clock Saturdays and Sundays for Alex Armstrong tonight. But up next, we've got Matt Goodwin, Friday night with Matt Goodwin. I hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
Well, Italy has just announced a major clampdown on radical Islam. I'm going to be saying what we should be doing right here in the UK. We're going to be looking at flag wars in Kent. We're going to be looking at what the establishment really think with a top pollster. That's Friday night with Matt Goodwin. Starts in about 1 minute.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there. Good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head towards the weekend, it should be mostly settled, dry, chilly overnight with some fog during the early hours of the morning. But where we see the sunshine, it is still going to be feeling warm and pleasant for the time of year. The reason for the settled conditions, well, it's all thanks to high pressure swirling around as we head towards the weekend. At times, though, across northern areas, it will drag in some cloud from the west. It's likely we'll see spells of drizzle across western Scotland through the course of Saturday morning. Elsewhere, a mix of cloud and also some clear skies, the clearest skies particularly across eastern areas of England, so a chance of some mist and fog here, and most towns and cities will remain in the mid to high single figures, but across any rural areas under those clear skies, a good chance we could dip below freezing and possibly see some frost. So a chance of this across eastern areas of Scotland, but in the north